There is a moment in Tron Ares where Eve Kim, played by Greta Lee, gets digitized into the grid and rescued by Ares. He instructs her to get on the back of his light cycle, and they zip through digital landscapes while being pursued by Dillinger's forces. The 9-inch nail score is absolutely screaming. They dive into a digital sea for reasons the movie never bothers to explain and go underwater to escape. When they surface, Ares pulls the light cycle out of the water, with Eve clinging to his back. And the film gives us this awkward slow-motion shot. Ares rising from the water, waves cascading off his suit, Eve screaming behind him. In another movie, this could be an iconic moment. Think Thor arriving in Wakanda, or Kay stumbling through the casino in Blade Runner 2049, while flickering Elvis holograms create suspenseful chaos. But here, it's completely flat, meaningless. We have zero connection to these characters, so the moment lands with a thud despite looking spectacular. This is the fundamental problem with Tron Ares. It plays like a video game cutscene. You know those elaborately animated sequences between levels that advance the plot but carry no emotional weight because you're just waiting to get back to gameplay? That's this entire movie. Characters move from point A to point B. Things happen. None of it matters because we're never given a reason to care. It's been 15 years since Tron Legacy gave us that hypnotic Daft Punk soundtrack and those sleek light cycle races. And now in 2025, Disney delivers Tron Ares, a movie that looks spectacular, sounds incredible, and collapses under the weight of its own hollow storytelling. This is a movie that had every advantage: a $180 million budget, 9-inch nails crafting what might be the best film score of the year, talented actors like Greta Lee, Jodie Turner-Smith, and Evan Peters, and somehow it manages to waste all of it on a script so fundamentally broken that no amount of visual polish can save it. Let's break down exactly why Tron Ares fails, and why this franchise might be cursed forever. Now let's talk about the story problem. This has a foundation built on nothing. At its core, Tron Ares is about Eve Kim, the CEO of Encom, racing against Julian Dillinger of Dillinger Systems to achieve permanence, the ability to bring digital constructs into the real world. Eve is motivated by her dead sister's humanitarian work. Julian wants to create the perfect expendable soldier. Ares, a self-aware AI program, gets caught between them. That's the setup, and it's actually not bad on paper. Two tech titans competing ideologies about AI and digital life, questions about what it means to exist. There's potential here for a Blade Runner 2049 style meditation on consciousness, or a tense corporate thriller about the weaponization of technology. Instead, we get none of that. Eve's entire motivation revolves around her sister, who supposedly worked on humanitarian projects and left behind the permanence code. Here's the issue. Her sister is dead before the movie starts. We never meet her. We see her in maybe 2 brief memory flashes that Ares experiences. She's not a character, she's an exposition device. How are we supposed to care about Eve finishing her sister's work when we have zero emotional connection to that sister? It's storytelling 101, show, don't tell. The movie just tells us Eve had a sister, tells us she was important, and expects that to be enough. It's not. You have Greta Lee and Evan Peters as rival CEOs of competing tech companies. This should write itself. Imagine the verbal sparring, the ideological clashes, the corporate espionage drama. Instead, they barely interact. They have literally one scene together. One. For a movie built around their competition, they might as well exist in separate films. Now compare this to something like The Social Network, where character relationships drive the entire narrative. Here, Eve and Julian are just aware of each other. That's it. You can even compare that to a movie like One Battle After Another, which is a great movie that just came out, and the two characters in that, the hero and the villain, don't even interact except for one scene. It's basically the same thing. But here's what One Battle After Another does different. That movie eschews the Hollywood genre format. In that movie, and there's going to be mild spoilers for One Battle After Another, Bob Ferguson, played by Leo DiCaprio, is trying to find his daughter. He doesn't do any of the heroic things typical heroes do. He's an underdog. That's where that movie's different. His daughter, Willa, she's the one who has to fight for herself. Yes, her dad is still coming to get her and still is trying and being a great hero, but he's an underdog. He's kind of a loser. Willa's the unseen hero, really. And the fact that the villain of the movie gets defeated in that way by not even the main character, it kind of goes out of its way to eschew traditional Hollywood format. Willa takes down one of the white supremacist underbosses, and that's kind of the climax of the movie. But it still works because you get that emotional payoff. You get that father-daughter connection and reunion. Tron Ares represents the most basic Hollywood cliches. Here, Eve and Julian are just aware of each other, and that's it. The stakes are microscopic. By the finale, one of the antagonists, a AI named Athena, played by Jodie Turner-Smith, pilots a recognizer over the city to capture Eve. The movie wants us to feel like this is a massive threat, but it's not. One AI is chasing one person. That's it. Nobody else is in danger. The city isn't under threat. There's no ticking clock for humanity. It's just a very expensive manhunt for a CEO. For a franchise that pioneered groundbreaking visuals, this feels embarrassingly small. And let's talk about some more problems, including one with the protagonist. Eve Kim is supposed to be our entry point into this world. She's the CEO of Encom, brilliant enough to track down Kevin Flynn's decades-old research in Alaska, determined enough to fight for her sister's legacy. And she is mind-numbingly boring. Part of this is the writing. Eve has no personality beyond serious CEO lady who misses her sister. She makes business decisions, she rides a snowmobile, she grows digital orange trees, she runs from bad guys. These are actions, not character traits. We learn almost nothing about who she is as a person. What does she do when she's not working? What does she fear beyond generic failure? What makes her laugh? The movie has no interest in answering these questions. There's exactly one moment of humanity in the entire film, a scene at a gas station where Eve sees herself on a magazine cover doing cat claws. She imitates the pose, then tells the clerk, "I need your phone, I'll wire you $10K, before taking his car and adding, "I'll wire you another $50K. It's a brief glimpse of a real person acknowledging the absurdity of her situation, and it's the only moment like it in the entire runtime. Compare Eve to Kay from Blade Runner 2049, another quiet, introspective protagonist searching for meaning in a synthetic existence. Kay works because we see his daily routine, his relationship with joy, his quiet moments of doubt. We understand what drives him even when he's not explaining it. Eve just does things the plot requires her to do. Then there's the antagonist problem. Julian Dillinger, the man behind the curtain. Julian Dillinger is the villain of Tron Ares, and he's essentially the Wizard of Oz, a guy at a keyboard. He introduces Ares to shareholders, he launches cyber attacks, he makes cold, calculated decisions about acceptable casualties. And he's completely uninteresting as a villain because he has no presence, no ideology we can engage with, no personal stakes in any of this beyond, I want to win the tech race. And Evan Peters, like Greta Lee, is a talented actor. He's proven that in everything from American Horror Story to Mayor of Easttown to his work in Dahmer. But Julian Dillinger gives him nothing to work with. He's just a tech bro who's slightly more evil than usual, I guess. There's no depth, no complexity, no scene where we understand why he's so ruthless. And part of this is a prehistoric issue that's built into the franchise. Dillinger has always been the villain of the movie, played by David Warner in the original, and he was just never that interesting. David Warner's always been a fantastic actor. And here we got Evan Peters, but it's just like you're carrying the legacy of this role that never was inherently interesting. If they want to make this guy Dillinger so bad, give him a personal motivation. The movie tries to add complexity through his mother, Elizabeth, who's played by Gillian Anderson, who expresses concerns about the limited lifespan of programs and eventually tries to shut down the particle lasers. But this relationship is underdeveloped. We get hints that she disapproves of Julian's methods, but it's never escalating into real conflict. When Athena kills her, it should be a shocking moment that pushes Julian into true villain territory. Instead, it barely registers because we spent so little time with either of them as real people. And here's what's frustrating. There are so many ways to make Julian compelling. What if Elizabeth wasn't just concerned? What if she was actively complicit, testing Ares because the government promised her massive funding in exchange for weaponized AI? That would create real stakes and moral complexity. What if Julian was racing against Eve not just for corporate dominance, but because his mother was dying and he believed that permanence code could save her consciousness? That would give him a relatable, if twisted, motivation. Instead, he's just a guy who wants to build the perfect expendable soldier, and he doesn't care about casualties. It's a villain paint by the numbers. Then there's the Ares problem, a protagonist without development. Jared Leto's Ares is supposed to be the emotional heart of the film, a program who gains self-awareness and wants to experience permanent existence in the real world. This is a great concept, an AI discovering it wants to live, questioning its creator's indifference to its survival, choosing empathy over programming. But Ares barely talks. And when he does, it's to say things like, the 80s are cool, about 4 times. His character development happens in fast forward. He's introduced, shows unexpected self-awareness by trying to save an injured program named Caius, who's in this movie for a second. He gets pulled out by Julian, and suddenly he's betraying his creator to help Eve. Why? Because he's experienced real-world phenomena and liked them? That's not character development. That's a plot point pretending to be an arc. The movie tells us Ares is evolving, but it never shows us the internal struggle. Compare this to Roy Batty in the original Blade Runner, another artificial being seeking extended life. Batty's entire arc is visible. His desperation, his violence, his poetry, his final moment of grace. We understand exactly who he is and what he wants. Ares remains an enigma because the script refuses to give him depth beyond the most surface-level observations about existence. When Ares meets an aspect of Kevin Flynn on the primitive grid and discusses his desire for permanence, it should be a profound moment. I mean, this is a program confronting its creator figure about the meaning of life. And Jeff Bridges is back for a small cameo. This could be a really cool scene. Instead, it's just Disney nonsense, man. This is an exposition. Flynn grants Ares the permanence code. Ares gets a new suit with white highlights, and that's it. There's no real emotional payoff, no transformation that feels earned. And also, this scene is intercut with the final battle scene, which is so cool and awesome. I mean, like, for what you get. And the pacing is just totally off. We're cutting between this like city alien invasion scene and then just Jeff Bridges giving Ares a tour of the grid. It's really bad. Then there's the Jared Leto problem. Look, this was Leto's passion project. He pitched it for years. He wanted to be in a Tron movie, and he does bring a certain robotic quality that fits the role. But there's a difference between playing an artificial being discovering humanity and playing a character who's just flat. Leto's better when he's playing villains with charisma. Look at his Neander Wallace in Blade Runner 2049. That character was menacing, philosophical, and genuinely unsettling. Ares needed someone who could convey wonder, confusion, fear, joy, all the emotions of a newborn consciousness. Instead, we get blank stares and monotone line delivery. Then there's the Athena problem. Jodie Turner-Smith plays Athena, Ares' second-in-command, who eventually becomes the primary antagonist when she's ordered to de-res Ares and later hunts down Eve. And she's actually pretty compelling. Turner-Smith brings real presence to the role. Athena looks incredible. She's sleek, dangerous, completely committed to her mission. When she pilots a recognizer into the city for the final confrontation, it's genuinely exciting. But like everyone else in the movie, she's underwritten. Athena is essentially the love character from Blade Runner 2049, the loyal enforcer who carries out her creator's orders without question. The difference is that Love had scenes that established her psychology. We saw her frustration when things went wrong. We saw her pride in her abilities. We understood that she was trying to prove herself to Wallace, to be more than just another replicant. Athena gets hints of this. There's a moment near the end when the sprinkler system activates and she shows a flicker of self-awareness before dematerializing. It's intriguing, but it's one moment in a film that needed to build that realization throughout. The final battle between Ares and Athena is basically a beat-for-beat remake of the Love versus Kay fight in Blade Runner 2049. In that film, it was the climax of a deeply personal conflict. Kay trying to save Deckard, Love trying to prove her worth, both fighting for their understanding of purpose. Here, it's just a cool action scene. There's no emotional weight because we don't know these characters well enough to care. And there's so much pacing issues and plot holes. At 119 minutes, Tron Ares moves too fast. Everything happens at breakneck speed with no time to breathe, no time for characters to react, no time for the audience to process what's happening. And to be fair, I don't mind this, but it affects the movie. Like, this is dumb crap. I like dumb crap. I like Lara Croft Tomb Raider, that movie from 2001. This is like that. It's a movie that is fun to watch, but it's so fucking stupid. And it doesn't have to be. The worst pacing issue comes into the third act when Ares returns to Flynn's grid to meet the Kevin Flynn aspect. This should be cut completely. It exists purely for nostalgia. Look, here's Jeff Bridges. Remember Tron Legacy? Remember, that was cool. This adds nothing to the story. Flynn gives Ares some vague wisdom and the permanence code, and that's it. The real problem is that the scene is intercut with the Athena versus Ares chase sequence, which is genuinely one of the best action scenes in the movie. It's like one of the only action scenes in the movie. The editing constantly pulls us away from the exciting part to show Jeff Bridges delivering exposition in a digital void. It kills all momentum. Pick one. Either give us the philosophical conversation with Flynn as a meaningful sequence, or give us the action scene without interruption. Don't try to do both and fail at both. At least in a movie like Star Wars 3, you're cutting between Yoda versus Palpatine and Ewan McGregor versus Hayden Christensen. Those are both action scenes we're cutting between, but they work because they're both action scenes that are building momentum. Then there's the dialogue problem. Every line of dialogue in this movie exists to move the plot forward. There's no subtext, no personality, no memorable exchanges. Characters say exactly what they're thinking and feeling at all times. I need to find the permanence code. The program is showing unexpected self-awareness. We have to stop Julian. It's all surface level, all function over form. They are barely any human moments. No scenes of characters just talking, getting to know each other, revealing who they are through conversation rather than exposition. The gas station scene I mentioned earlier works because it's a brief glimpse of spontaneity. Eve imitating her own magazine cover, negotiating for a phone and car with casual offers of massive money transfers. It's weird and human and memorable, and it's still cliche. It's not a great scene at all. It's just the one moment that feels kind of human. The rest of the movie needs more of that. Also, why does Ares seriously turn against Julian so quickly? By the way, I keep saying Julian. I think about the Peacemaker intro. Julian, it's a hungry world. But anyway, seriously, why does Ares turn against Julian so quickly? He's supposedly been created recently, maybe days ago, and suddenly he's betraying his creator to help a stranger because he likes the real world. He likes the 80s. That's not enough. We need to see the progression. Ares experiencing multiple moments that make him question his purpose, forming a genuine connection with Eve through conversation and shared experiences, wrestling with the decision to defy his programming. Instead, it happens almost instantly. And why does Eve trust Ares? He just attacked her company, downloaded her personal data, and chased her through the city on a light cycle. Now they're working together because he asked nicely? Where's the tension? Where's the mistrust that has to be overcome? I mean, seriously. And now, to totally flip to 180, let's talk about the visual and audio excellence, because the style cannot save the substance. And let me be clear, Tron Ares looks and sounds incredible. It looks incredible for the most part. There's a couple scenes where they're in downtown Vancouver where it looks like a regular TV show, honestly. But the 9 Inch Nails scores is phenomenal. It's industrial, haunting, propulsive. Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross scored this movie under the name 9 Inch Nails. They haven't done that ever. I think they always do Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, and they're always great. But they understand how to create atmosphere, and the score is easily the best element of the film. If this gets an Oscar nomination for Best Original Score, it will be deserved. It should honestly win. It will probably lose to Sinners, but the music carries scenes that would otherwise be dead weight. The action sequences are pretty good. The light cycle chases are what you'd want from a Tron movie. They're fast, colorful, geometrically precise. When Ares enters Flynn's primitive grid and we see the 80s Tron aesthetic on a massive IMAX screen, I got to see this at the Lincoln Square IMAX in 3D. That's a 16-story screen. Seeing that part was genuinely great. The visual effects are seamless. The production design is gorgeous. But here's the thing, visual and audio excellence can't compensate for a fundamentally broken story. Blade Runner 2049 looked and sounded amazing, but it also had a screenplay that trusted its audiences, characters with real depth, and themes it actually explored rather than just mentioning. Tron Ares has the aesthetics down perfectly, but it's hollow underneath. Then there's the Blade Runner problem. This movie desperately wants to be Blade Runner 2049. It's obvious in every frame, dude. The neon-soaked cityscapes, the brooding AI protagonist discovering what it means to exist, the corporate intrigue, the slow, contemplative pacing. At least it tries for that and fails at parts. Even the final battle is a direct lift from the 2049 climax. But Blade Runner 2049 worked because it had patience. It let scenes breathe. It trusted the audience to infer meaning rather than spelling everything out. It treated its themes, memory, identity, purpose, what makes us human, with genuine philosophical weight. Tron Ares borrows the aesthetics but misses the substance entirely. This just plays it too safe. And here's the fundamental issue. Tron Ares is a Disney movie, and you can feel the corporate hand on every creative decision. This should be a dark, challenging exploration of AI consciousness and corporate greed. Instead, it's a sanitized, safe, focus-grouped product that refuses to take any real risks. The permanence code can create digital constructs in the real world. News reports mention at the end that Encom uses it to benefit the world, creating treatments for cancer, presumably mass-producing resources to solve climate crisis, revolutionizing medicine and agriculture. These are massive, world-changing implications. Imagine the conflicts this would create. Which governments get access first? Who controls the tech? What happens to traditional industries? What are the unintended consequences of playing God with matter itself? The movie mentions none of this. It treats the permanence code as a MacGuffin, a thing people want because the plot says they should want it. There's no exploration of what it actually means for the world. You have two tech giants competing for revolutionary technology. This is ripe for the social network style drama about ambition, betrayal, corporate espionage, and the personal cost of innovation. Instead, Eve and Julian barely interact. They're not people with competing visions, they're just names attached to companies. What if we saw them as rivals who once worked together? What if there was a history there, a partnership that ended badly, leaving both determined to beat the other to the finish line? What if Eve's sister worked for Julian before her death? I mean, that could add a personal betrayal to the competition. And Ares is a sentient program who doesn't want to die. Athena shows moments of self-awareness. The movie touches on the idea of artificial consciousness, but never commits to them. In a braver film, this would be the central theme. What rights do sentient programs have? Is Julian's treatment of Ares any different from slavery? When Ares achieves permanence and enters the real world, what does that mean for human society? Disney won't let this movie go there. It can't risk alienating audiences with complex moral questions. So instead, we get surface-level gestures towards these themes without any real engagement. I mean, this franchise is just a cursed legacy. The Tron franchise has always been cursed. The original 1982 film was a groundbreaking technical achievement that performed modestly at the box office. Tron Legacy in 2010 looked incredible, had an all-time great soundtrack from Daft Punk, and also performed modestly while dividing critics. Now, Tron Ares has opened to $33.5 million against a $180 million budget, likely a massive financial loss for Disney. The problem is that Tron has always been more about aesthetic than substance. People remember the light cycles and the glowing costumes and the electronic music. They don't remember the characters or stories because, frankly, they've never been that memorable. Tron Ares needed to break this curse by finally delivering a Tron movie with a story as strong as its visuals. Instead, it perpetuates the franchise's fundamental weakness: all style, no substance. The post-credit scenes, which start just seconds after the credits begin, show Julian being sucked into the Dillinger grid and transformed by his grandfather's identity disc, setting him up as the villain for a potential fourth film. This is the exact problem. We just spent 2 hours with Julian as an underwhelming antagonist, and the movie expects us to be excited about him returning for round 2. Why would anyone care? This is symptomatic of modern franchise thinking. Assume success, plan sequels, set up future installments, even when the current film hasn't earned that confidence. Tron Ares needed to be a complete, satisfying story first and foremost. Instead, it's a setup for a franchise that audiences have already rejected 3 times. And since we spent so much time tearing this movie apart, let's talk about what could make Tron Ares work. 1, they could make the rivalry personal. Eve and Julian should have history. Maybe they worked together at Encom before Julian was kicked out, taking Eve's sister with him. When the sister died working on Julian's projects, it became personal for Eve. Now they're not just corporate rivals, they're 2 people with genuine animosity and conflicting philosophies about technology's purpose. 2, they could give Ares a real arc. Slow down his transformation, show us multiple scenes of Ares experiencing the real world and questioning his existence. Give him conversations with Eve where they actually connect as people or person and program. Make his decision to defy Julian a genuine moral choice that costs him something. 3, make the stakes global. The permanence code shouldn't be about just bringing one AI into the world. It should be about unleashing a wave of digital entities that could fundamentally alter human civilization. Julian wants to weaponize this for government contracts. Eve wants to use it for humanitarian purposes. Both have valid points, and both are risking catastrophe. Make the audience unsure about who's right. 4, they should just cut the Flynn sequence entirely. Unless you're going to do something meaningful with Kevin Flynn, have him warn Ares about the consequences of permanence, or reveal something crucial about the code origin, cut it. It's pure nostalgia bait that adds nothing. 5, give the villain depth. Make Julian sympathetic. Maybe he's trying to save his mother from terminal illness using the permanence code. Maybe he genuinely believes that human consciousness is flawed and artificial beings are the next evolution. Give him an ideology and we can understand even if we disagree with it. And lastly, let the characters breathe. Add scenes that don't advance the plot. Let Eve and Seth have a conversation about what they'll do if they succeed. Let Ares observe humans doing mundane things and process what he's seeing. Let Julian and Elizabeth argue about ethics versus progress. Give us reasons to care about these people beyond their plot functions. Now here's my confession. Despite everything I've said, I kind of enjoyed Tron Ares. It's a spectacular failure, but it's a failure that looks and sounds so damn good that it's entertaining in its own right. Watching it in IMAX 3D with the Nine Inch Nails score thundering through the theater and those light cycles racing across a 16-story screen is genuinely fun. This is the paradox of the modern blockbuster. You can enjoy something while simultaneously recognizing it's fundamentally broken. Tron Ares is good, bad fun, a guilty pleasure that works as pure spectacle even as its story collapses. But here's why that's a problem. We shouldn't accept spectacle as enough. Disney has infinite resources. They have access to the best screenwriters, directors, and actors in the industry. There's no excuse for delivering a script this weak, characters this thin, and a story this hollow. The fact that the movie can coast on visuals and music is a condemnation, not a defense. Tron Ares is exactly the kind of lazy franchise filmmaking that audiences are increasingly rejecting in 2025. It's a sequel to a movie from 15 years ago that nobody was demanding. It recycles ideas from better films without understanding what makes those films work. It prioritizes setting up future installments over delivering a complete story. And it assumes the brand name and flashy visuals are enough to sell tickets. They're not. The $33.5 million opening is proof. Audiences are exhausted by corporate IP exploitation. They want movies that feel like they have something to say, that take risks, that respect their intelligence. Tron Ares offers none of that. This is a beautiful corpse. It's a technological marvel of a movie in service of nothing. A movie where every technical element, cinematography, production design, visual effects, sound design, musical score is operating at the highest level, but the screenplay is so fundamentally flawed that none of it matters. You have talented actors given nothing to work with. You have a fascinating premise about AI consciousness that the movie refuses to explore. You have competing corporations that never actually compete in any meaningful way. You have a protagonist with no personality, an antagonist with no presence, and a supporting AI character who goes through a transformation we barely see. So overall, I thought this movie kind of sucked. Let me know what you thought of Tron Ares. It's totally fun to watch. I hope the score gets a best score nomination. It was so good, but otherwise this movie sucked. So let me know what you think of Tron Ares, what they would even do if there's a fourth Tron movie, and thank you guys for watching.